Hi guys and welcome back. In today's video we are going to be talking about how you can save, all of that time that you spend trying to find a perfect font for your new project. So if this sounds like something that you're interested in learning about, then grab a pen and a bit of paper, like I always say, and we'll get straight onto it. Okay, so for those of you who are new to the channel and new to this series in particular, my name is Sophia Carey and I am a photographer and graphic designer. My channel, I talk about, anything to do with creative entrepreneurship, photography, graphic design, and this series in particular is designed to go through the fundamentals of graphic design if you were, for example, a beginner or a photographer looking to enhance your practice by using graphic design. So first up, I'm going to be talking about how I personally choose fonts for a project, and really what it comes down to is, like all graphic communication, I want to really nail down what it is I'm trying to communicate and match the font to that message. So primarily I'm thinking about what is the message I'm trying to communicate and who am I trying to target with that message, who is my target audience. From there on, I will probably make a list of characteristics that are associated with both this message and this audience, and then I can kind of get to choosing a typeface and some fonts that support and enforce those messages. If you guys haven't already checked out the typography basics video from this series, then I would head over and just quickly give that one a watch before you watch this. We do go over a little bit of terminology that we use throughout this series that might be useful for you. So as a recap, when we're talking about typography and we're talking about what it needs to do and what it needs to achieve, we really want to ensure that it's readable and legible, that it is able to be read. That is the purpose of the type. It is the first kind of purpose of the type, is to actually make sure that it's been able to read and the information you're trying to convey is able to be read. And secondly, we want to ensure that it communicates properly. And I did speak about this in one of the other videos, and we used Comic Sans as an example of a typeface that has had a lot of hatred from misuse. People not using it properly, people using it in a way that doesn't really fit with the message that they're trying to communicate, has just given that typeface a really bad name. And there's a lot of other typefaces that are similar to Comic Sans that have also had a bad name from people just misusing them, overusing them in scenarios where they shouldn't be used. So the example that we used in that video was, if you are writing to a patient, a medical patient, to inform them that they have an illness, then maybe using Comic Sans, which is a really playful, fun, childlike font, is not the best method of communication in that instance. Similarly, do we really want to be using a really serious classic typeface like Times New Roman if we're communicating with children? So it's just really about what kind of vibe does the font have. So we've spoken about this before, but every font and every typeface has a message, a vibe, a personality of such. What you really want to do is try and match that personality to the message of your work. Of course, like any rules, there are exceptions to this one. So for example, many of you might be aware of a very notorious designer, David Carson, and David Carson is known for pushing the rules, especially when it comes to typography, and really, playing around with the boundaries of what is right and wrong when you're using type. So for example, he was the editor of a magazine called Raygun, and he did a lot of the graphic design throughout those magazines, and he notoriously typeset an entire interview. I think it was in like one of those symbol fonts, because he found that interview boring. So yeah, I definitely look at his work as someone who evidently knows the rules but chooses to break the rules, and I think it's okay to break the rules as long as you know them. And I've said this before when we've spoken about other things to do with type, other things to do with graphic design, and the same in photography. But rules are there and they're important to know, but it's okay to break them as well sometimes. So when I'm talking about you want your typeface to match your communication, what about if you don't know what you want to communicate? So the way I kind of think of it is you want to consider three things when you're talking about what you want to communicate. You want to think about your audience, the genre of the work that you're creating, and optionally you might want to think about the client that you're creating the work for. When we think about a lawyer, the audience is probably someone looking for professional services. The genre, of course, law is quite it's a professional service, isn't it? So it's not really going to be playful, it's not really going to be childlike. You don't want to give the impression that a lawyer doesn't know what they're doing. The typeface we might use for a lawyer is very different to the typeface we might use for a pet groomer. So for example, a pet groomer might have a more fun kind of brand identity using very different typefaces to that of a lawyer, because it's less of a serious profession, especially if you're working with kind of like wacky colours or something like that, or haircuts or something for your dog. Maybe then using serious typefaces aren't really the best way to go about that. So when you're thinking about this project, when you're thinking about your client, your message, your audience, your genre, it can be useful to kind of make a list of things that you want to communicate. So for example, casual, playful, elegant, pick some of these words out. Serious, classic, bold, loud, just pick some of these words out and, you know, kind of create a bank of words that represent the brand or the project that you're trying to work with. For example, if we take an example of a personal trainer who is targeting men. So here we're talking about traditionally quite a masculine profession, and then with a like stereotypically masculine audience. If we're talking about this, then you might want to opt for bold, loud typefaces that complement this masculinity of the brand identity. Because you're talking about power, you're talking about strength, and you want the typeface to communicate that as well. If you went for a typeface like Comic Sans, I know I keep going back to this, but if you used Comic Sans to try and promote a personal trainer, you might not take it seriously. It doesn't, you know, it doesn't look like a powerful, strong brand. So what I'm going to do now is we're just going to head over to my laptop and I'm going to walk you through two websites that you can use when you're trying to find some inspiration for typefaces. So as you can see, we are in this website called Fonts in Use. This is the URL if you want to visit it yourself. But as you can see, as you kind of go through the website, we're looking at a lot of different projects from different artists, different designers. And the great thing about Fonts in Use is that it tells you which typefaces are used. So for example, if I really liked this project here, let's click on it. And I really like these typefaces, so what are they? And Fonts in Use tells you what typefaces they are, and if you click on them, you can see other examples of the typeface in use as well. So this can be really good to see what kind of typefaces work well together, what kind of typefaces work well in different projects. So for example, we can see that this typeface is often paired with these I guess like really decorative serif typefaces. You can also browse by format. So if you wanted to look just at typefaces used in album art, let's say, you can click on this and it brings up a whole load of different album artwork that you can have a look at. Similarly, you can also bring up topics here and you can browse by topic. So if you wanted to look at things that were used often in, let's pick a random one, industrial design. And here we are, we've got loads of projects that are based around industrial design. So yeah, once again, this is called Fonts in Use, and I definitely recommend using it. It can be great if you are stuck for inspiration. Some of the typefaces are free, some of them are paid for. It just depends on which kind of typeface there is. And then the second one we're going to go into is called You Work For Them, and it's pretty similar. So if you go down here, we can see a lot of different typefaces. And You Work For Them, you can also download the typefaces as well. But it's a great way to kind of see the typefaces in use. It's very different to using like a Typekit or Google Fonts, where you kind of only just see the typeface, you don't see it in a scenario, whereas you can see here we're seeing really illustrative kind of projects using the typefaces. So hopefully you've got an idea of where you can find inspiration for typefaces, some other good examples of websites similar to You Work For Them in particular, where you can actually download the fonts, are places like Creative Market. I'm sure you guys have heard of that before. Creative Market is a great creative market, like it sounds, and you can download loads of different assets. If you sign up, you also get some free monthly assets, including type. So that's a really great website. There are My Fonts is a great one, fonts.com. And then if you are looking for some free fonts, we've got Adobe Typekit, of course, if you're using a Adobe Creative Cloud subscription. Google Fonts is a great one, which is also a good one for finding web compatible typefaces. But I'll link all of that in the description, so it's all there. You can have a look at it, you can, browse it in your own time and really get to grips with what it is. I'll also put a link in the description to Creative Cloud if you don't already have it. It's a great software. I use Adobe Creative Cloud across my graphic design, across my videography and my photography, so I would definitely recommend, getting that if you don't already have it and you want to be working across multiple disciplines like I do. What I'll also do is I will link the kit that I use throughout my graphic design practice in the description, so you guys can check out that as well. But yeah, I will be back soon with another video in the graphic design series, and of course I've always got photography videos coming out in the meantime as well. So if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, then please do consider subscribing and turning on the little notification bell, because it really does help to support the channel. And again, if you could give this a thumbs up if you did enjoy it, and drop me a comment and let me know what you think and what experiences you've had with choosing typefaces, and if you can offer any tips that I haven't really mentioned here. But thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.